Some stories live in the quiet moments, in unread messages, in late-night thoughts, in hearts that are trying, slowly, to let go. Tonight, this is one of those stories. A story about love that didn't end with a fight, but with silence. A story about holding on, and learning when to finally let go. Welcome to Moonlight Stories with Diane. There's something about Lagos at night. Not the kind of something you can easily explain to someone who has never felt it, but the kind that lingers in your chest long after the night has passed. The city doesn't sleep. Not really. It only softens. The chaos becomes a distant hum. The honking fades into memory. The crowds thin into silhouettes. And in that quiet in-between, Lagos reveals a different side of itself. A more honest one. For Amoka, that was when everything became louder. Not the city. Her thoughts. It was 11:47 p.m. when she stepped out onto the small balcony of her apartment in Yaba. The air was warm, carrying that familiar Lagos mix. Fuel, dust, roasted corn from a roadside vendor somewhere far off, and something else. Something strangely comforting. She leaned against the railing, her phone in her hand. Unlocked. Screen glowing. No new messages. She sighed. It had been 3 days. 3 days since the conversation. 3 days since everything shifted. 3 days since she last heard from Dennis. They hadn't ended things. Not officially. No dramatic goodbye. No final, it's over. Just silence. And somehow that hurt more. Amoka met Dennis on a random Tuesday afternoon at a cafe she almost didn't enter. She had been tired that day. Work was draining, life felt repetitive, and she had no real reason to be out. But something pushed her through that glass door. Maybe curiosity, maybe fate, or maybe just the need to sit somewhere quiet for a while. He was already there. Laptop open, earphones in, looking like someone who belonged to his own world. She remembered how she hesitated before asking if the empty seat across from him was taken. He looked up, smiled, and just like that, something shifted. "Of course not," he had said, removing one earphone. His voice was calm, grounded, different. That first conversation was simple. No pressure, no expectations. Just two strangers talking about random things. Traffic, work stress, bad coffee, and why Lagos somehow manages to be both exhausting and addictive. By the time she left, Amoka felt lighter. She didn't expect to see him again. But Lagos has a funny way of bringing people back into your life when you least expect it. They ran into each other again 2 days later. Then again the following week. Then it stopped feeling like coincidence. "Are we pretending this isn't intentional anymore?" she had teased one evening. Dennis laughed. "I think Lagos has decided for us." What started as occasional meetings became routine. Morning texts, late-night calls, unexpected visits. Comfort. That's what it was. Simple, quiet comfort. For the first time in a long while, Amoka didn't feel like she had to perform. She didn't have to be on. She didn't have to impress. With Dennis, she could just exist. And somehow, that was enough. But like most beautiful things in Lagos, it didn't come without complications. Dennis was careful, not distant, not cold. Just guarded. There were parts of him he never fully opened up about. His past, his family, his fears. Whenever the conversation edged too close, he would shift it, gently, skillfully, almost like he didn't want to break something fragile. At first, Amoka didn't mind. Everyone has layers. Everyone heals at their own pace. She told herself to be patient, to give him time. But time has a way of revealing things. Not always through words. Sometimes through absence. It started with small changes. Replies that took longer. Calls that became shorter. Plans that got postponed. "Work has just been crazy," he would say. And she believed him. Because in Lagos, that was always a reasonable excuse. Until it stopped feeling like one. That night, the one she couldn't stop replaying, it wasn't supposed to be anything serious. Just a drive. A simple late-night drive through the city. They had done it before. Music low. Windows slightly down. Letting Lagos breathe around them. But something felt different. Dennis was quieter than usual. Not the comfortable quiet they shared. A heavy one. "Talk to me," she said softly. He kept his eyes on the road. "There's nothing to talk about." She turned to look at him. "There's always something." He sighed. And for a moment, she thought he would open up. But instead, he shook his head. "Amoka, not everything needs to be discussed." That was the first crack. "Not everything," she agreed. "But the important things should be." Silence. The kind that stretches. The kind that fills the car with unspoken words. Finally, he spoke. "I don't think I'm ready for this." Her heart dropped. "For what?" "This, us." The words didn't come with anger or frustration, just honesty. And somehow that made it worse. "Then what have we been doing?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm building inside her. He didn't answer immediately. "I don't know," he said eventually. That hurt. More than anything else. Because she knew. She had always known. The drive ended shortly after. No shouting. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet, "I'll call you," and a silence that followed. 3 days. No call. No message. Nothing. Back on her balcony, Amoka locked her phone and placed it on the railing. She looked out at the city. The lights. The movement. The life. Lagos was still alive. Still breathing. Still moving forward. So why did she feel stuck? She thought about texting him. Typing something simple. "Hey." But even that felt heavy. Because what came after "hey"? She closed her eyes, letting the night air wrap around her. Sometimes, heartbreak doesn't come with chaos. Sometimes, it comes quietly. Like a conversation that never happened. Like a message that was never sent. Like a love that never fully became what it could have been. She wasn't angry. That was the confusing part. She understood him. She understood fear. She understood not being ready. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Her phone buzzed. Her heart jumped. She grabbed it quickly. Unknown number. For a second, she just stared at it. Then she answered. "Hello." Silence. Then, "Amoka." Her chest tightened. "Dennis." There it was. His voice. Familiar. Unsettling. "I didn't know if you'd pick up," he said. "I almost didn't," she replied honestly. A small pause. "I'm sorry." She leaned against the railing again. "For disappearing? For everything." Silence. "I've been thinking," he continued. "And I realized. I handled things badly." She didn't interrupt. "I should have been clearer. I should have talked to you instead of shutting down." "Yes," she said simply. Another pause. "But it doesn't change how I feel," he added. Her grip tightened around the phone. "And how is that?" "I'm not ready." The words landed the same way. Heavy. Final. But this time, they felt different. Because now, there was clarity. She exhaled slowly. "I figured. I don't want to hurt you," he said. "You already did. Not harsh. Not bitter. Just true." "I know." The honesty hung between them. "I care about you, Amoka," he said. "I really do." She smiled faintly. "I know." And she did. That was never the problem. The problem was, care wasn't enough. "I just don't think I can be what you need right now," he added. She looked out at the city again. The moving lights. The distant sounds. The life continuing without pause. "And I don't think I can keep waiting for you to figure that out," she replied. There it was. Her truth. Silence. Then, "That's fair." It was. They stayed on the call for a few more seconds. Neither of them speaking. Neither of them wanting to hang up first. But some endings don't need a long goodbye. "Take care of yourself, Dennis," she said. "You too, Amoka." And just like that, the line went dead. No dramatic music. No final words. Just an ending. Amoka stood there for a while. Phone still in her hand. Heart strangely calm. It still hurt. Of course it did. But it wasn't the kind of pain that breaks you. It was the kind that teaches you. She realized something in that moment. Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to let go. Lagos hummed quietly around her. A car passed. Somewhere in the distance, laughter echoed. Life continued. She picked up her phone again, opened her messages, scrolled through their chats, smiled at some, paused at others. Then she did something she hadn't thought she could do. She let go. Not by deleting everything, not by erasing the memories, but by accepting them. They happened. They mattered. And now, they were over. She placed her phone down and looked up at the sky. The moon sat quietly above the city, watching, witnessing. Maybe that's what Lagos nights are for, she whispered to herself. Not just for stories, but for endings too. And maybe, for new beginnings. Because somewhere in that same city, under the same night sky, another story was waiting. Not to replace the old one, but to build something new, something different, something ready. Amoka took a deep breath, and for the first time in days, she felt okay. Not completely healed, not completely whole, but okay. And sometimes, that's enough. As she turned to go back inside, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it briefly. A message from a colleague. Nothing important. But she smiled anyway. Because life wasn't paused. It never was. And neither was she. Behind her, Lagos continued to glow. Alive. Endless. Full of stories. Some beginning. Some ending. Some still waiting to be told. And somewhere in between all of that, Amoka found herself again. Not as someone who lost love, but as someone who experienced it, learned from it, and grew beyond it. Because in Lagos, even broken hearts still beat, still hope, still find their rhythm again. And maybe, that's the thing about Lagos nights. They don't just hold the noise of the city. They hold the quiet endings too. The ones no one sees. The ones no one talks about. The ones that change you. Slowly. Because not every love story is meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach you. To open your heart. And then gently show you how to let go. Amoka didn't lose love. She experienced it. She felt it. And she grew from it. And somewhere out there, under the same Lagos sky, another story is waiting. One that won't come with confusion. One that won't ask her to shrink. One that will stay. But until then, she'll keep moving. She'll keep healing. She'll keep becoming. Because even in heartbreak, there is still life. And in Lagos, life never stops. This has been Moonlight Stories with Diane, a Sparks of Life Studios original. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next story. Good night.
I could use some motivation, but I know how I feel. Faster than